welcome to Career Conversations. So, hello, Christine. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Chris.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, yeah. So I'm Christine Parkhill. I am the CCO at Just Slots, which is a relatively new slots supplier. Yeah, that's probably, I'm responsible for all things commercial as comes with my role, but also because it's a startup, a lot of other things as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us how did you get started in the gambling industry?
So pretty much by chance. Well, I'm actually an engineer by trade and I did sustainability for a long time. I then moved to Malta. I'm Maltese, but yeah, was away for a while. And sustainability and construction in Malta was not maybe the best place to be. And yeah, by chance, I just through a friend of a friend, kind of, there was an opportunity starting at Push Gaming, which at the time was, literally just starting up in Malta. I wasn't too sure at that first, but then I said yes, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it since then.
Okay, great. And is there a moment from your iGaming journey that taught you something that you still carry with you?
It's so hard because there are so many. I think you just always have to keep learning, stay open to opportunities, and just kind of meet people. So I don't know. I guess rather than a moment, maybe something that really stays with me all the time is like the importance of company culture. And I remember at Push, we used to have these, the CEO was really kind of really inspiring. And we used to have these presentations, and some of the things he said, like those really, really stick with me. And I really try to take them into everything we do, mostly around like people and creating the right culture in a company. I think that's like really, really key.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. Let's talk about slots. I want to try and understand for those listening and even for myself, because I've never worked at a studio or B2B. I was always B2C. Can you tell us how slots are created?
Yeah, so it's a really fun process. So the idea can come from anywhere. So it could be from a theme or it could be a mechanic. Typically, the producers will come up with a mechanic for the game and then go to the art team. And then depending on whether the mechanic is, let's say, a softer, kind of easier one or something a bit more, let's say, volatile and aggressive, then the art team will usually find a theme that matches. After that, there's a lot of iterations between kind of art, trying to get the characters, the background, and really getting a nice feel for that. Then that moves on to animations. So we start animating everything. And this is really important because through the art and the visuals, you can really tell the story of the game and what's happening. And a player can really understand what they're looking for, any anticipation that really comes out in the animations. At the same time, the sound person comes in as well and starts creating all the sounds and the music background. Again, our sound person always says you should be able to close your eyes and just by listening to the sound, you know what's happening on screen. So you know if you're winning because the sound is getting more exciting, or you know if you're, like you're having a quieter time. So it's really important that you create that whole experience for the player. So then once all that comes together, we obviously build the back end of the game. So actually kind of all the coding happens. Those our devs do that. Then there's a whole process of testing and refining. So, like just test, refine. Sometimes until you actually see the game and play it, some things might not feel right. So that's really, really important step. And that is quite a non-scientific step. So I think it really takes someone with experience to actually feel kind of what they can tweak to make the game more fun. After that is QA, where we just, look for bugs. There's always some bugs. And then finally we release the game, certify it. And then actually the final part is where it comes to my team, where we but we market the game, organize all the promotions, make sure all the customers know it's coming, make sure we get people excited about it, and finally like launch it.
It's quite a process. So the producer is like the mathematician or they work together?
Yeah, so we have some producers who are mathematicians, like by trade. Some producers could be people who are really interested in slots. There's always a mathematician on every project. So whether that's if the producer is himself, the mathematician there, or we have a separate kind of maths team.
Okay, interesting. Those brain boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like massive spreadsheets. It's really cool. It's like I really love just like opening spreadsheets with the mathematician and they just explain all the process. I think it's really nice to do it from scratch.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to KPIs and processes. What would you say are your top 3 KPIs?
So obviously this is coming from a commercial person, so I'm doing
Yes.
my perspective here. For me, bet amount is probably the top one because it is a representation of everything else. So to me, that is the one thing I go for. However, equally or like very, very important as well, especially I guess from the product side, I would say would be player numbers and even more important, returning players, because it's not enough to just hit a player, but you want him to come back. And how many spins a player does on a game. Again, like you want a player to enjoy the game and keep enjoying it. I think so. I think the returning players and the number of spins per game, per session, I think those two are really important. They tell you a lot about the game and how good it is.
Let's talk about the bet amount, right? So that's your main KPI. Can you walk us backwards, like through the processes? How do you measure success?
Yeah, so I guess there's two sides to it. So one is setting goals. So again, coming at it from a commercial perspective, like looking at past performance or looking at benchmarks in the industry, and just from experience, or just there's a lot of information out there. Thankfully, in our industry, we have a lot of data. And then setting targets. I usually set three sets: the low, medium, and high. And I think that's a good thing because there are always unknowns. So the target bet amount we want to reach per game, per month, per operator, etc., etc. Then I think very important, having the right data in place and the right BI systems to be able to very easily measure where the bet amount is coming from. So I need to know every morning I receive an email with, okay, this was the bet amount yesterday. Where is it coming from? Which games? Which operators? Is it new games or old games? Do we have many promos going on? So just trying to find out why, diving really deep into
Yes.
why the number, what it is, whether it's good or bad. We need to
Yes, of
understand why.
course.
And then, having, I guess, the tools and the team in place to take actions to make it bigger in our case, because that's what we want to do. So yeah, so to me, it's set targets. That is a really that process is really important, because if you have unrealistic targets, you can just demotivate people. On the other hand, your investors don't want low targets, so that's a science in itself, I think. And then you're just constantly just staying on top of the numbers, understanding them as well as possible, and reacting in time, I would say.
Exactly. So, for example, if the numbers are really good, you'd say, oh, where is it coming from? Which operator and which game? Would you like get in touch, right, with the casino team of that operator to kind of say, hey, this is doing really well. Like, like keep it up, like maybe for game visibility in the casino lobby. And also if it's bad, you probably do the same.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it comes down a lot, obviously, probably in every job, but like people are so important, and that relationship with the operators and affiliates, and it's so important, because sometimes you're asking for favors, if you know what I mean. Like it's like, oh, can we put this one up a bit in the lobby, because the visibility and the exposure of games is everything. So yeah, that's super important. You do have to have a good product. If you don't, it does come down. I mean, you can push games as much as you want, but if the product isn't strong enough, players will not keep playing it. And this is why I think I mentioned returning players before, because like players might try a game because it's in front of them, but if it's no fun, they'll leave after 10 spins. So that's why the product is so important as well. And especially I think now it's so competitive. So like promotions and the pricing are super, super important as well. I don't think it's ever been as competitive in our field in terms of suppliers. There are new suppliers popping up all the time. And there's really, really amazing games out there. I love playing games, and I play many people's, many companies' games. The competition is really, really strong. So, and we also have many of the bigger operators who have their own studios now. So they're, obviously they push their own content because it makes sense commercially to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's tougher than it was, 6 years ago, for sure.
Okay, let's stay on KPIs. The last question. What are your main day-to-day challenges that you face?
I think the biggest challenge I face in general is I always find managing people can be a bit hard, because to get everyone to pull in the same direction, obviously commercially you're going one way, or we know what we want, but sometimes that doesn't align perfectly with like maybe what the devs are doing or what product is doing. So maybe as an example, for example, product might want to go with some completely crazy game and fine tune it for 6 months. Whereas for us, which is great, however, that means we don't have new games for 6 months because they're working on, this masterpiece. That's where, so to me, the alignment across the different departments, and I guess to get everyone focused on the same thing, I think that's probably the biggest challenge that I find, because
Yeah.
yeah, getting that commercial kind of hat on the rest of the company.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. How long does it take to create a new slot?
Yeah, so it depends. I'm sorry, it's a really boring answer, but it really depends. So you can do it really quickly, and with AI, you can go you can do it in a week. You
Wow.
literally to yeah, we're working on some tools to help build games faster, because that's an important part of being competitive nowadays. But then I also, like, in the past, let's say as Push, we had games that took 18 months to build,
18?
yes, 1/8,
1 hit.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it's just like getting them perfect. So this is where the balance is. I think, when it comes to art, for example, there's so much thought that goes into every single symbol, like to make sure a player understands this is the high symbol, this is the medium, this is the low. So it's, the colors, the animation, one's a bit brighter. There's so much thought that goes into everything. So if you are like quite a perfectionist, it will take a long, long time. Also, if you have, for example, very, very complicated mechanics, then they might be a bit more difficult to code. So, we have to make sure that the maths that is designed by the mathematician matches the code that has been prepared by the developers, like statistically. So the more complicated the game, the longer that process takes, for example. So it can take very long. Then if you have like a more simple game, it's kind of much easier to do. Nowadays as well, there's a lot of extra features. I mean, I say nowadays, but like hot spins and bonus buys, and there's lots of extra stuff to keep the player entertained. So
Mhm.
everyone needs to be tested, etc., etc. So yeah, it's yeah, probably not a very good answer, but it really depends.
And it makes sense.
Unfortunately, I would say as well, sometimes the games that take longest to make are not the most commercially successful. So it's really hard as well, because you think, okay, if we've spent 18 months making a game, okay, don't worry, it's going to be a hit, but it's not the case. Like, you never actually know exactly which one's going to make the most money. So yeah.
You need to get out your crystal ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to career growth, right? So you've worked at Push Gaming for 6 years and you moved up the ladder to CCO. What practical tips can you share with like other people who are starting out as like account managers, sales, biz dev? What tips can you give them to move into an executive role?
So I would say, for me, like, be curious and learn about everything. Try as much as possible not to be, if I'm starting in commercial or as an account manager or whatever, don't only be interested in that. For example, I didn't play slots before I started working at Bush, but now I play quite a lot. But so I think it's really important to get interested in product and speak to the other people on your team, in the company, mix with as many kind of different teams as possible, because that is going to give you a much better all around view of things, and everything's interconnected. So I think it's really important. Yeah, if you want to grow in your career, it's really important to understand, even if you're not, you don't have to be CEO, but even if it's important to understand how your decisions are affecting other teams, and just understanding the bigger picture. So yeah, that's probably be curious, keep learning, and don't just focus too much on only what you're doing.
Let's move on to building brands. Right? What's different about working with a recognized provider compared to building a new studio?
Reputation. It's much harder with a new studio. I think. Well, I think the main difference to me is with a renowned one or with a reputation, operators come to you asking for your games, whereas with a new one, you have to go to them selling games and convince them that they should take your games. I think that is like the main pure difference. At the end of the day, then the rest of it is all, you have to negotiate, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's starting from, rather than being asked for something, going and trying to sell it.
So what's most important, would you say, having a great network or a great product?
So I think, again, in my opinion, okay, yeah. But for a new studio, I would say the network is kind of more important, especially at the beginning, because you need us to somehow get your games on sites in front of players. Once you have your games in front of players, then the product needs to stand up. So I would say, yeah, like at a startup, network first, but product must stand up, because otherwise, if I convince them to take my games and then players come, play 10 spins and leave, they're not going to take my second game. So
Okay, so that makes sense. So now we'll move on to the next question, which is kind of related but a different topic, right? Team building and recruitment. Because in a lot of job descriptions, like for example for account managers, and they always ask like for you to have a network or a track record, commercial success. So since you brought up network first, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Like for someone like starting out, maybe they didn't work in the same industry, they worked in a different industry. Is it like you wouldn't even consider them or I mean, how
so
important is it?
absolutely the opposite actually for me. I almost sometimes, I mean, it depends for what role, but if it's for a more, let's say, junior role or, for like an account manager, or I absolutely only hire people based on their attitude. I have hired my best people from other industries actually. Not saying I don't hire from gaming, obviously, and for some but you do need to have experience in the industry if you're doing something specific. But for me personally, actually, it's all about the attitude, the person's attitude, and then they can learn everything else. If they're willing to learn, they can pick it all up. Now, this is again, if I'm hiring someone to be a CCO, then obviously they have to have a network. They're going to have to go out and sell games. If you're starting up, but then to build a team, you just want good people who work together, who, like are willing to learn and support each other. And then they can, yeah, they will go the furthest, I think, actually. Yeah. My job descriptions are always, like experience in gaming is, it's a good thing to have, but it's not a must.
How can you tell how good someone is in the sense during the hiring process? Do you give them a test or are there any specific questions you ask?
Yeah, it depends on the role. But for example, again, I'll go for account manager because that's probably what I've hired most of. Yeah, so usually I give them, so I'll meet them a few times, and I think a lot of it comes from the feeling I get of a person. Again, always better to meet in person. My theory is, as an account manager, for using this example, I'm going to want them to sit with a customer and be liked and be easy to talk to. That's what you want from an account manager. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm interviewing someone. Not necessarily kind of the most clever or the most experienced, because you want someone likable. Then yes, of course, I will ask about, their values need to be kind of aligned with mine or with the company's rather than with mine. So, for example, we are quite data focused. So, I will look for someone who understands data, who has experience using some tools, etc., etc. So, some of the basic skills have to be there, but then it doesn't matter whether those skills have come from gaming or from any other industry. More important is that the person's here willing to learn, likable, can get along with
Yeah,
people. That's what's needed as an account manager.
makes sense.
Organized is another one that I look for because we're fully remote. So you need people, like people need to manage themselves as much as possible.
What is it on a CV that stands out to you?
It's so hard. I think like, and I know it's a real cop out, but like I value people getting recommended to me. Like I go for, because it's so difficult. I've seen hundreds of CVs. It's so hard to know from one sheet of paper, like what to look for. Now, I think obviously it's like obvious things, like if there's any mistakes, like any typos, for me it's an immediate no. I think like you really have to. That's your representation. So if this is what I'm sending to someone representing myself, even if there is like one full stop missing, I think you don't care enough about this job. So that type of stuff for me is super important. But then yeah, like I guess I look for people who I think would be interesting. So for me, for example, the bottom bit where they say hobbies and interests, I actually quite like that because it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to talk to this person. Like this would be a fun person to talk to. Or so yeah, sometimes it's just like a feeling I get. Again, like if it's too templated, like I feel, didn't you care enough to do it yourself? So yeah, I think, yeah, it is super super difficult, and I have made many mistakes. I know over the years, like sometimes you get CVs in and you kind of just go, no, this one won't work, and then eventually you follow this person and their career, and you think, oh wow, that CV came across my desk 3 years ago. Look where they are now. So I'm not, yeah, I don't have the perfect answer. I just try to look for interesting
Yeah,
people that they care about. You need to know that
yeah.
they care. want it, because there are going to be hard times, and at the hard times, unless you really, really want it, you'll give up.
Okay, so let's move on to tools of the trade. What are your top tools, let's say three, that or software that you cannot live without?
I'm gonna show my age here. Excel. No, I am tool of the trade, but yeah, I do everything in Excel. I think, to be fair as well, actually, you asked this question at a good time because we're literally reviewing all the tools we're using at the moment for CRM, for like day-to-day kind of project management, because I have not found the perfect one. I'll be honest. I've tried many, many, and I haven't found the perfect one. For me, yeah, the sharing of documents is super important. So even if it's just as simple as like, like Google Drive, and I don't like, but because we're remote, but making sure that everything is shared and can be updated constantly is super, super important. We use one called UTrack, but to be honest, I've come across many similar ones. But this is it. It's like having everything in one place where people can communicate, and you can keep track of the progress. I think is really important. The problem is I haven't found a perfect one yet. So yeah, we're still trying. I think there's still a bit of a problem with tools speaking to each other as well. So there are some tools which are made more for like the Java, kind of maybe more a bit for the technical people, and then but technical people obviously need to work with commercial and maybe non-technical people. And I think sometimes the connections between the tools isn't there yet. It's getting better. And actually, to be fair, our DevOps team are really good at setting up all these automations. So it's as there's as little manual input as possible to try and cut out errors. But yeah, like we still sometimes have to put data in two places and stuff like that. So
Okay, so streamers and community. Do you currently work with any streamers or influencers?
we have a few. One of the companies we work with, one of our bigger clients, which is Gamdom, they have a very, very strong streamer network. So through them, we've done quite a lot with streamers. I mean, nothing super, more just like playing the games and stuff like that. I've just hired a new marketing manager actually who started last week. So he's taking this role on. So hopefully we'll push more in this direction because I'm really keen to work with streamers more. In the past, I have some friends who are streamers and I've gone on stream with them and I have so much fun. So yeah, I want to do more with them for sure. I think one of the exciting parts of slots is actually, and this is why it's so much fun when you watch the videos and you see the reactions and the excitement of the wins and the anticipation. I think streamers represent that quite well. So yeah, that's why I'd like to work with them more.
Okay. And what would you look for when choosing a streamer or influencer to represent your brand or products?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely values. The values need to be kind of aligned with ours in terms of, I think, like everywhere in life, there's some streamers and there's been some controversy, let's say, about some streamers and influencers, not mentioning anyone, but like with, for example, underage viewers or yeah, like all this type of stuff. So obviously you want to try and stay away from anything like that because you don't want it associated with your brand. So definitely, ideally, someone who has a better, I think, aligned values, let's say.
Yeah, fair enough. So now let's move on to AI, right? Do you use AI in your day-to-day work?
So currently, not a lot. We do use a little bit of AI, mainly actually for art. So not me personally, but in the art team, yes, and in our marketing team as well, actually. So to just like make videos quicker, just generate characters based on a character would have, things like that. So yes, but we're still at the start of it, I would say.
Could AI fully replace account management or business development, or will it remain a co-pilot?
I think it will remain a co-pilot. I think so. I really believe it's a really good question. I think AI personally, I see it as it's a tool. You must understand it, understand what it's doing and how it's working in the background. And then there's massive, massive potential. So you can, make things much, much more efficient. Just like these bots are amazing. They're so quick. So when it comes to like populating anything or like just generating like presentations, stuff like this, amazing. However, in my opinion, you do need, well, one, you then need a person to like look over it. 'Cause I think what some people don't, there's been a lot of studies on the responses that come out of like ChatGPT. The responses might not be as maybe like critical as a human would be. So for me, there should always be a person involved, specifically in account management. I think a lot of the human connection cannot be, again, old fashioned maybe, but it cannot be replaced by a computer, not or by a tool. I think like you can't replace that, meeting people in person and yeah, the feeling you get, when you meet someone in person and just have a chat with them.
Yep. Okay, so this brings us on to the next question, because you mentioned people, having connections and meeting with people. So networking and conferences. So they say that networking and conferences is where the magic happens. What are your thoughts about this?
So I think I like going to conferences and yeah, like I think there may be a few too many now because there seems to be events, like multiple events every month. Um and traveling to all of them can get a bit tiring. I think we do try to go to at least the main ones. So we'd go as a team, not necessarily the whole team, but would go to, like 6 or 8 probably events every year. It's because I think, as I'm saying, I think it is important to meet people in person, and sometimes new opportunities pop up which you wouldn't otherwise find. Because, I think even just like walking around the stands and bumping into people, you kind of, you never know who you're going to meet. So yeah, I do think it's important. I think it's quite fun as well to get everyone in the same place. Yeah, our industry is really fun for that, just get everyone in the same place, maybe people you wouldn't necessarily plan to meet, and kind of see what happens. So yeah, I do agree with the magic happens, that part of it. I just don't think you need to go to all of them.
What tips would you give someone attending a conference to get the most of an event, like before, during, and after?
So I would say before, definitely check who's going. Don't just turn up. So you can have a bit of a plan of who you want to meet, etc., etc. During, I would say stay as close as possible to the conference. That's the practical tip. So you don't have to get taxis, which are usually impossible to get, and don't fill your schedule at all. I think this is a really an easy mistake people make at the start of their careers. Usually it's like, oh yeah, I have 20 meetings back to back every day. And it's like, yeah, but that means you're not going to have all those chance meetings, which actually, that's where the magic happens. Leave space, walk around, bump into people, because a lot of opportunities come like that just by talking to people, at networking events, or even just like walking around the stands. After, follow up, and do it, in a timely way. I think this whole following up 2 weeks later because I've been busy looks really bad. It's like, I don't know, if someone does it to me, it's like, okay, so I obviously wasn't important enough for you to follow up sooner. So I would say, yeah, if you do say you're going to follow up a few days later.
Excellent, thank you. S- what is next for Just Lots?
So we're investing quite a lot in building tools to build games better and quicker, using AI quite a lot as well, actually. So we just want to be a lot more efficient in the way we make games. I mean, you learn from everyone and we make mistakes all the time. So, which is fine, but we still have a lot to work on to get our processes better. We have a really, really good development team. Yeah, it's that's our main focus for the future, I think, is build better tools to build better games. And yeah, like improve processes and efficiencies. And then obviously expand. At the moment I think we're on about 160, 170 sites at the moment. Yeah, I'd love to see that, at 500 and see our games everywhere. That's kind of the dream. So yeah, keep working hard on the distribution.
And which trends are you watching in regards to like player preferences, game mechanics, B2B marketing?
Yeah, so I think obviously, I think when it comes to games, we play as much as possible, and not just in the slots world, but also like video games and everything else. Because I think it's good to see what people are doing, and I think it's really good to learn from other industries as well. Because our industry is relatively young, relatively, so it's good to learn from other industries as well. I think the social side is interesting, the sharing of gameplay and stuff like that. I think like with influencers and TikTok, and you can see how quickly something can go viral. I don't have the magic dust. I wish I did, but I think that's part of like sharing the experience will grow for sure. So we're keeping an eye on that. Maybe multiplayer games. Yeah, I don't. We're just keeping an eye on what's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Final question. What is one insight from the last 15 years that you wished you had known from the start?
I have two here. If it's
Mhm.
this, can I? Okay, I think number one is hire superstars only. So to me, that's so important. I think team is everything. When you're hiring, don't make like if you don't feel they're going to be good enough, just don't hire. If you hire good people, that's what makes a company. And then the other really really important one is just make mistakes. It's fine, like we're building games, make mistakes and learn from them, because it's so much better than being too scared to do the wrong thing and not take risks. I think that's where the special games or the special things and the really really magic stuff comes from. It's from people who aren't scared to make mistakes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your insights. We've reached the end of our interview. So thank you so much for your time, Christine.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Same.